Well, thanks, Natasha. Thanks, Rani. Welcome to today's first session of manual handling training. I know that we've already talked, and I know that you've been through this process before, Natasha, and I know Marianne's explained it to you, Rani. So we're going to do 2 sessions. We're here in a family home today. Mainly today's about practical exercises. And before we start, I think you're both aware, but I just want to remind you that manual handling training is mandated by the Work Health and Safety Act. Rani is a new employee. She's not able to go and visit any clients until she's completed both sessions of her training. And Natasha, it's a requirement that you renew this skill every year, and that's why you're here. So I think obviously, Natasha, you've done this training before, but Rani, have you done any manual handling training before?
I haven't done any formal training, but I was helping to care for my mom before.
Okay, all right, okay. So over the course of these 2 sessions, we're going to do practical and we're going to do theory. As I mentioned, today is all about practical, and I'm just going to show you, not that you need to read it, but there's actually 10 skills that you have to demonstrate competency in to be signed off. So today we're actually going to do 8 of them. So you'll nearly be finished by the end of this session. You'll almost have finished all the practical. The first skill that we're going to look at is assisting a client to walk, and we're going to do it 2 different ways. First without a walking stick, and then the second time with a walking stick. So it's really just a variation of the same skill, and we're going to go through the policies and the procedures to make sure that you know how to do it in accordance with home in bed guidelines. We're going to be here for 90 minutes today and 90 minutes next time as well. Every time we finish a skill, I'm going to set up the new equipment for the next skill, so you guys can feel free to take a break. Before we get started, bathroom's that way, kitchen is just up the hall on the left, so feel free to get coffee, tea. In the event of a fire or any other kind of emergency, we're going to go around here through the driveway up to the front of the property. Okay, so let's get started with the first skill, and I'm going to and this is your handout, and I'm going to get you guys to get involved with reading. But before we do that, I just want to point out straight away, you'll already be aware of this, Natasha, but the kind of people that we're helping, they're very high risk of falls. So it might sound simple, assisting a client to walk, but actually it's not simple. A lot of these people have actually fallen over. They've maybe had broken hips or some other thing, so they're actually quite nervous because they've had serious falls, they've hurt themselves. Some of them can't hear well, so communication's a big thing. You can't just grab someone and drag them up the road. You need to make sure that they know what you're doing and where you're going, so you need to talk to your client. A lot of them have got vision problems, they can't see properly, so you are their eyes and ears. You have to look ahead. If you're taking somebody somewhere, you've got to look for the risks and try and see what you can do about them. That involves, you might have to take somebody shopping or up the street. It's a moving target. You are the eyes and ears of this person. Maybe they can't hear that there's a car coming from the left. Maybe they can't see that there's a big crack in the curb coming up, right? So you are that person. So work health and safety is a big thing. Next minute, they'll be down on the ground. How are you going to get them up? You can't lift them, or else they might take you with them, and you'll both end up injured. So work health and safety, we don't want you to get hurt. You keep yourself safe, you keep your clients safe. Okay, so with that in mind, could I ask you, Natasha, to read me out what manual handling is from your sheet?
The definition?
Yeah.
So manual handling definition: transport or support of a load by hand or other body part. It may include lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, carrying and or throwing. Manual handling is integral to care provision.
Okay, so let's put that in context. Natasha, can you think of something that you've done in the last, anything that you've done in the last day or 2 that involved manual handling?
Yeah, picking up my kids.
Exactly. What about you, Rani?
I was just thinking about taking my daughter out of the shower where it's slippery and she's all wet and slippery as well, and getting her onto the bathroom tiles which are wet and slippery.
Perfect. cooking, you know, you're lifting heavy pots that are hot, you know, there's almost nothing that you do in your day-to-day life, and that's what you're doing in this job. You're actually helping people to live in their family home. So therefore, more or less everything that you're doing, you should always be thinking about the safest way to do it, and if you can see that there's a risk, trying to avoid that risk. So with that in mind, could I ask you to read out from the sheet, Rani, safe work practice?
Sure. Safe work practice. Clients must be assessed as safe to walk in their care plan, which may specify use of a walking aid, carer assistance, walking stick, frame or walker. Any observed change must be reported.
Okay, so now we're putting this in your work context. If you've never seen a client before, you need to read the care plan before you arrive at their house. You need to know what they're safe to do and what they're not safe to do. You can't just assume that Mrs. McGillicuddy's fine, that you can just get her up and take her out to the shops. You know, there might be specific things you need to, maybe she needs a wheelchair. You don't know until you've read her care plan. So you actually want to read it before you get there, because if you don't understand it, if you're not clear about something, you should call the case manager and clarify that before you get there. There's another element which I'm sure you know. A lot of our clients might have cognitive issues. If they've got dementia and you ask them a question, they might say, oh yeah, that's okay, that's fine. Well, that might be completely wrong. You know, you've absolutely got to read their care plan, because unfortunately a lot of our clients can't be relied upon. So it's up to you, again, safety first, know what they are capable of doing and know how it's supposed to be done before you actually turn up at their door. And if you notice that suddenly you've been seeing somebody for a little while and then you notice, oh, well, they seem to be having trouble standing up or some other issue, or they're now not taking proper steps or something, you just report it. So that's what we're talking about there. Now, as I said, really, we're just looking at one skill. All we're doing is 2 variations of one skill. So we're going to get underway now, and in a few minutes' time, you're both going to be signed off number 1 on the form, okay? All right, so I'm going to ask you, Natasha, can you please just read me out the first point under procedure?
Check client's care plan before assisting.
Which we've talked about.
Yep.
Okay, so we go nothing without that. Rani?
Check area for potential hazards.
Okay, so we're looking around here. I, for one, notice that there's a blind step off the end there. So I've put a blue broom there to make sure that when we do our practical exercise,
Yep.
no one goes off the edge,
Yep.
right?
Okay.
So
Explain what you're about to do.
that's right. So you're not going to just grab one another and drag one another up and down the veranda. You're going to speak to your client slowly, carefully, nicely, obviously, encouraging. Remember, they've fallen over all the time. They've really hurt themselves. So you need to give them a bit of encouragement. We're starting both of these skills in a standing position.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other skills is helping people to stand up, but that's a totally different skill. We're not going there at the moment. So for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to start in a standing position. And the last point there is to brace your stomach muscles, because when you do that, you're keeping your core straight, you're keeping your back straight, you're protecting yourself, okay? So we want you safe, not just the client, okay? Safety is everything. So, care worker assistance. We're going to do that first, and if you don't mind, because you've done this before, I am going to get you to come and be my client for a minute, and Rani is going to, if you'd like to join me up here,
Yes.
Natasha, because when we're finished, you guys are going to buddy up and do this exercise with one another, and then once I've seen that, then we sign you off, okay?
Cool.
So to begin, Rani, could you just read out point number 1?
Okay, so for care worker assistance, point 1, stand at the side of the client.
Okay, we're going to stop right there, because I've read the care plan. It says I'm supposed to stand on this side of Natasha. Let's have a scenario. Let's say that Natasha's had a stroke. She's got weakness on this side. That's why I'm standing here.
Okay.
So that's another reason why, you know, so it could be either side, but in some people's cases, it needs to be very specific. Okay, so moving on to point 2.
Okay, offer reassurance to your client.
Okay, we're just going to go for a walk to the end of the garden, There's nothing in the way, there's no steps, there's nothing you need to be worried about.
So point 3, brace your outer arm by pulling your elbow into your hip and offer the client your hand, palm up to offer guidance.
Okay, so I'm going to show Rani this skill, okay? And now, okay. Now this might be all the help that some people need, but in our scenarios today, because we want to show the full process, actually, Natasha needs a bit more help than that. She's quite nervous and she's very unsteady on her feet. So we'll go to point 4.
Okay, if client is unsteady, nervous or unbalanced, place your inner arm around their back and waist for extra support.
So we're just like that.
Yep.
So I'm not holding her up, I'm not pushing her up, I'm not dragging her. It's simply just guiding. And now we're going to
walk with them, encouraging normal step length at a moderate pace.
Okay, we'll stop there. Now, did you feel comfortable with that, Rani?
I did.
Okay, so what we might do is get Natasha to go first, and you can be her client, and then you take her for a walk up there, and then when you get to the blue line, we'll turn around and swap places.
So sorry, you need to stand next to me.
You're taking me first?
Yes, I'm taking you first.
That's it.
You get your hand and place it there. And for the sake of the purpose, I'm
That's right.
just hold.
That's right.
Right? Does that feel comfortable?
We do touch people in this role.
Okay.
It's unavoidable.
Right. On the count of 2, and start. 1, 2.
That's right. Okay, that's it. We can turn around and swap. So Rani, you're going to brace your elbow and offer no, on the outer arm. That's right. The outer arm. That's right. And that's like that. That's right. And now she's also nervous and tentative. So you're going to put. That's it. Perfect. Perfect. And off we go. And keep pace with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Now, did you feel safe?
Yes, I did.
Do you feel comfortable?
Good.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's take a seat just quickly. And when we have a look at the procedure again, you're going to notice that there's 6. So there's really only one difference. Natasha, could you read me out number 1, because that's the only difference.
Place the stick in the client's preferred hand and ensure they have a firm grip.
So everything else is the same.
Yep.
You're always checking care plans. Why?
Left or right?
I don't know whether they hold it. Maybe they do, but maybe they don't. Do you know what I
Maybe
mean?
sure
Like,
what it
yeah.
is.
So the only different thing that we're doing is this time we're using a stick. Okay. So because you've already had a go at this, and we're only putting one element in, I think Natasha, I'll ask you to be the client first again. And let's say that your care plan says that you on this time you've had a stroke that affected your left side. So you're leaning on the stick there, because you can lean on the stick. The stick is a stick. You can't lean on Rani because that wouldn't be appropriate. Okay? All right. So Rani, you're going to come over and you're going to do everything the same, apart from the fact that Natasha's got the stick. Yeah? And then we're going to walk to the end.
So let's start walking.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe just a little bit lower with your hand there, Rani.
Okay.
Yep. And now we will stop
Yep.
and we'll swap places.
All right.
So
Rani's going to take the walking stick.
Yep. Which side? Do you
Oh,
want the
that's all right. Don't worry. We're just as long as you follow the right process. So you're going to brace your outer arm, and hang on a minute. We're going to be palms up, palms down. Yeah, and then across, and then we're coming back.
leaning on the stick?
Yeah, yeah. That's it. Wonderful. I think we can stop now, unless, do you feel you need more practice or do you think you've got it? Do you feel comfortable? Because it looked good to me. So I'm happy now to sign you both off if you want to take a seat again. So that's all there was to it. That's skill number 1 of our test. So what have we done? We've introduced the concept of manual handling. We've just touched on working safely. We're going to just obviously be building on this as we continue on. You have both demonstrated the skill of assisting a client to walk. Can you imagine how often you're going to be doing this every shift?
Yeah.
You know, practically there are not that many clients who won't need walking assistance because otherwise we wouldn't be there. So, and just think, have you thought about, like, if you couldn't see properly, if you can't hear properly, if you're all shaky, like, how important is this?
Very.
Because if you can't get around, you're going to be stuck in your house. You can't even maybe get around your house. Okay, so it sounds like a very basic thing, but it's not basic at all. You're actually making this person's life possible to carry on in some sort of normal manner, even though they've got, you know, in some cases very, very serious problems. So I'm going to set up the equipment because in the next session we're going to be using wheelchairs and mobility walkers. So if you guys want to take a bathroom break, go and get a cup of coffee in the kitchen, whatever you like, see you in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.